Welcome back to the Irish NFL Show in association with our partners Quimbet as we continue our build up to the new NFL season. And one of the talking points of the off-season so far has been a change to the kickoff rules in the NFL. And I'm delighted to say that my guest today is someone who should be able to help maybe shine a bit of a light on how this is going to affect NFL teams going forward with their special teams. I'm delighted to be joined by New Orleans Saints assistant head coach and special teams coordinator, Darren Rizzi. Darren, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here. Thank you.
And just, Darren, before we kind of touch the new rule I was talking about there and the season coming up, I just wanted to kind of touch your path, from when you started coaching up into the NFL. I know you started coaching at an early age. Has special teams always been a kind of a big part of your coaching career as you've kind of stepped up the ladder?
Yeah, other than the very first year of coaching in college, which was way back when, I actually coached in college for 16 seasons, and 15 of those 16 I was in charge of special teams at the college level. So, really for the last 30 years, because now I've been in the NFL 15 years, going on my 16th season. So really for the last 30 years of my coaching career, no matter where my job brought me, whatever position I had in college, I've always been in charge of the special teams portion. So it's definitely something that's important to me. Something that I've always had in my background, and something I've been doing for a long time.
And when you talk about, you've obviously been, as you say, part of special teams for a long time. It's been part of your career. How have you seen special teams develop, from when you went from the college game to the NFL, and then just in the NFL itself, how maybe rules change and, they've tweaked it a bit over the years. How have you found those changes as you've gone along?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to talk about is, and we talk about this with our rookie players all the time that come out of college, there's really some major differences between the college game and the NFL game. A lot of people might not realize that the football itself is different, right? So for the kickers and the punters and the snappers, and for the players that actually handle the football itself is a lot different. The hashes are a lot different. The numbers, the field markings are different. And so that affects a lot of things as well. And then, obviously with our new kickoff rules, which I know we're going to get into, that's drastically different. The punt rules in terms of who can release down the field, the eligible coverage players, that's a lot different. So, there's a lot of differences. And so that's really number one. Number two, I would say the game has really evolved a lot in the last 30 years that I've been coaching. You look at some of the major rule changes in the NFL. You look at the extra point, for example, getting moved back to the 15-yard line years ago. Since I've been in the NFL, we've made drastic changes to the kickoff play multiple times. We've it's kind of been incremental changes along the way. And so, that's been another, important aspect. And so it's interesting you bring that up, because that's, one of the major things that we discuss with our new players and our rookies when they kind of get integrated into the NFL on the differences, and then obviously the importance, because, a lot of the players that we bring in from these different college programs, they might not have had major roles on special teams, wherever they're coming from. We get guys from major college programs that, may have been really, really important offense or defensive pieces, and then they get to the NFL and it's kind of new to them. So, but yeah, there's no doubt about the fact that the game has really evolved. And really, when I got into the NFL myself 15 years ago, I had to really, learn a lot of the different rules and nuances, if you will, no different than the players do. So yeah, it's a really interesting question. It's changed quite a bit.
And I would imagine for a lot of rookies coming into the NFL who do find themselves on special teams, there are actually a lot of rules that they need to brush up on it and make sure they're well on top of it. So I know you'll be watching a game and maybe something will happen that isn't the norm and doesn't regularly happen. And you find even the commentators to be like, actually, what happens here? So I suppose for a rookie, it's a lot to make sure that they are well on top of every rule that applies to the kickoff and punting. And obviously they need to brush on that every year because, as you say, changes happen regularly to help with safety and the spectacle of the game and so on.
Yeah, I don't think the average fan realizes how many unique situations can come up on special teams, whether it's, a live ball with kickoff, or if it's a punt in terms of players, downing the ball and the first touch rule and how it For example, the rules are different in college. When you're down by the goal line fielding a punt, the rules are totally different in the NFL. In the college game, you can actually have your feet in the end zone as long as the ball doesn't cross the goal line. Well, exact opposite in the NFL. If you're down there by the goal line as a coverage player, you can't touch any part of the goal line, or else you're considered to be in the end zone. The out of bounds rules as it relates to the gunners on punt and the guys that are down there first. So there really are, and we spend a lot of time in our rookie orientation and our rookie weekend, that rookie mini camp. We spend a lot of time that first few days just going over the rules, and I think it's something that a lot of people take for granted. That you would naturally think, well, these guys have been playing football for so long, they know the rules. But the rule book, I can be honest with you, it's about yay thick, and so there's a lot of little things in there that take you kind of a lot of time to get accustomed to. And now with these drastic changes to the kickoff, I know the average fan, when they first see it, we practiced today out there, and we had a lot of spectators that were really seeing it for the first time. And I've already gotten, just in the last couple of hours here, a lot of comments on oh my gosh, how much different this is, and I got to learn the rules. And so, staying on top of that, staying up to date is a big part of our job for sure.
And just one thing before I actually going to jump into that new rule, Richard, but the one other kind of quick question that always I find pops up with people online, and it's, why can't the same guy, why can't the kick returner return punts and vice versa? And I think people don't see that there is actually a different skill set that is required for each one. And can you just give kind of a quick overview, maybe for people who are watching, maybe getting into the NFL for the first time, what that difference is between a kick returner and a punt returner?
Sure. Well, I'll start off by saying this. It's traditionally, it's much easier to catch a kickoff than it is a punt. And the reason that is because, generally speaking, when a kickoff goes in the air, the ball is kind of going end over end, and it really doesn't have a funky rotation to it, if you will. And so it makes the ball, there's a lot less variables to it. You kind of have an idea where it's going to land. It's easier to catch, the actual physical part of catching it, where on the opposite side, where a punt, there's a lot more variables. The ball comes out differently. It's got a different rotation. It could come out sometimes and go end over end and come down like a pass, and really have a lot of spin on it, a lot of velocity. And so, being able to judge that, is much different. The ball coming off the punter's foot and the ball coming off the kicking tee have completely different rotations, have completely different velocities, and there's a lot more variables to the punt game. And so the other part of that is the decision-making process for a punt returner is also maybe the most critical factor. So not only the physical act of fielding the ball, but the decision-making, when do I catch it? When do I fair catch it? When do I not fair catch it? When do I field the ball by the sideline? Being able to cover ground and not let the ball hit the ground in an event of a bad punt or a long punt over your head, or, knowing all the rules by the goal line. And so there's just a lot more variables that go into the game with the punt returner as opposed to the kick returner. Kick returner is kind of cut and dry. It's a little bit different now with the new rules. There's going to be some communication things that are going to be important. But as far as the actual physical aspect of fielding the ball, there's less decision-making. All those things are the major differences. So, yeah, it's funny. The people that have never, ever fielded a punt before and you put them back there to go field the punt, it's completely different. And then also one other aspect is, like right now in our training camp, we have two punters. We have one righty and one lefty, and the ball comes off their foot completely different. And so you talk to the returners after practice, and they're like, man, that lefty, the rotation, the ball off the lefty foot is completely different. And so it's actually something that we have to work on a lot of, and if we're playing during the regular season, if we're playing against a lefty punter, we get a lot of work that particular week on that lefty rotation. We have a jugs machine that kind of shoots the ball with that same kind of spin. And you wouldn't think that there's that much that goes into it, but actually there's a lot. And the punt return aspect is certainly more difficult for sure.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Even as you talk about it there, I think you don't realize, as you say, how much goes into these different plays that are critical throughout a game, and they really add up as the season goes on. Hopefully that helps people anyway who may be, as I say, new to the game, or maybe just weren't sure of that difference. I mean, I think that's a great explanation for them there, just to give them a better idea. Maybe it even helps when they're watching the game to appreciate that a little bit more, what these guys really go through out there. You mentioned, we've talked about the new kickoff rule. We have to kind of cover that. I know the NFL, as we mentioned, have previously, they've tweaked it here and tweaked it there, and they've had some big changes to it, which I think it's fair to say haven't developed in the way that they'd hoped recently. I think you're on record as being someone who is in favor of this new rule. But, as a fan of the rule, and as a coach now who is coaching special teams, how has it changed your approach to working with, say, not just your kickers, but, returners, blockers, and just strategy in general now, at the moment in minicamp and with your players?
Yeah, to answer the first part, as far as me being in favor of it, there's been a lot of history behind this. And I'm on a committee with the NFL that, we kind of do a deep dive every year on all the different aspects of special teams. And so, recently, the reason that we're so in favor of this is because recently there's been a little bit of a spike in the actual injury rates on the kickoff play. So it became one of the plays with the highest rate of injury for the players. And so the number one aspect was to really make the play safer and a little bit more, not a little bit more, a lot more friendly to the players. There was a couple of instances where there were some head and neck injuries, and then what we call lower body, lex injuries, lower extremity injuries. And so the goal was to, number one, make that play safer. And then number two, the other second major reason was we were starting to see a trend in the NFL where really teams were just electing to kick touchbacks every single time on the kickoffs. And it was becoming a play that was a little bit non-existent and a little bit, more of a ceremonial play. So clearly the focus going into this whole entire thing was, number one, make it safer, and then number two, make it more exciting and bring the play back into the fold. We feel like, I don't know what exactly the numbers are going to pan out, but I do know there'll be more kick returns this year than in the past. There was, if you include all the fair catches and the touchbacks last year, there was over 2,000 plays that, essentially weren't run between touchbacks and fair catches. And so even if we can cut that number in half and bring all those plays back in for the fans and the players and the coaches, we feel like that'll be a huge win. And so that's kind of the background. As far as the implementation of the actual play itself, we just finished our 11th practice here in the spring portion. And I can tell you, we've been working on this thing diligently. And so it's been a lot of fun, the application process of the play, teaching the players the rules, learning new techniques, learning all the different nuances of the play. All of that's been pretty exciting. And so, for example, we were out there today doing a little bit of drill work with it. And we're kind of still tinkering with a lot of different things, tinkering with the scheme, tinkering with the techniques, and kind of how we're going to block and cover and the plays that we're going to run and looking at all those different things. So we're still kind of in the workshop, if you will, in the lab, kind of trying to figure out a lot of those things. And that's kind of exciting, because there's not many times in our profession where you're saying you could do something for the very first time, right? The game's been around for a long, long time. And so for us to be able to say that, hey, this is a first, and these are the first time the fans are going to see it and all that, I think that's pretty cool. And the players have really responded. I talked to a bunch of the players today after practice, and they're very excited about those different aspects I talked to you about. Number one, that it's safer, and number two, that it's certainly going to be a lot more exciting. And so, we feel like we've kind of energized this play and revitalized it, if you will. And so, it remains to be seen what the results are going to be. But I do know this. I do know there's going to be a lot of eyes, and there's going to be a lot of attention paid to these preseason games when we're really kind of going to tinker with the kickoff and try a bunch of different new things. In the past where, maybe people were taking a bathroom break during the kickoff, I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. I think there's going to be a lot of people with their eyes kind of glued to the TV set. So it's been a really cool process. It's been something I've been working on right since the season's been over. I was on that committee, and it's been a lot of hard work. But now that we're actually out there on the field watching it, come into play, it's been pretty rewarding.
Yeah, and I can just say, as a fan, obviously I've went and watched a lot of the the XFL where it started, and I was kind of getting an idea of it there, and it is something that looks exciting. And as you say, if it helps with safety first and foremost, that's great. And then if it brings extra plays into the game, I mean, that is something then to get fans excited. Just one last question on it is, when it comes to the implementation now of this, are there specific players in specific position groups that previously maybe starters, you wouldn't even consider putting them on to kickoff? Now you're looking at it and saying, well, you know what, this skill set actually works with this new process. And maybe now these guys could become an option to kind of bring them in and use them maybe even late in certain games where a win, is on the line, and you want to bring someone in to really make a difference.
Yeah, I think that last point you make is really a huge one, because I feel like, we're training everybody in the process. So every single player on the depth chart is going to get, work at this thing, because you never know. Your point about the end of the game situations is a really good one, because, if the game is on the line, whether we're kicking off or whether we're on the receiving team, we're going to really want to have our top 11 players on the field. And so you may not see the marquee or the star offensive or defensive players all the time, but I do think you're going to see them show up at one point or another for a lot of teams, not just the Saints. I think, if you look around the league, we can sit here and go ahead and name about a dozen guys that are really, really exciting with the ball in their hand that might not have been returners in the past, that all of a sudden teams are looking at and say, wait a minute, we can get this guy, in the open field 2 or 3 more times a game. And so I think everybody kind of has that same approach right now. Like, hey, everyone's going to kind of, learn the rules, have your whole roster available to you, so that at any point in time you can throw those guys out on the field. And so I think that's going to be kind of one of the neat things about it, because it is, we feel like the play is going to be safer. There's not going to be that hesitancy to maybe throw some of those, quote unquote starters on the field, when the time is right. And again, I don't know if that's 100% of the time, but I do know this. I do know you're going to see some guys that haven't really been playing in those 2 phases in the past. I do know you're going to see that league-wide. You're going to see that show up. So that's going to be another neat part of that for the fans, because I think some of your favorite players out there that, probably you'd love to see with, on a kick return that you haven't seen, in previous years. That's going to be another reason why everyone's eyes are going to kind of be glued to that TV set.
Absolutely. And again, just as a fan, I can't wait to see it develop. You can probably see the Hester jersey above me there hanging on the wall. And,
Yes,
as a Bears fan, some of my best years as a Bears fan were Dave Tobe and Devin Hester and the special teams, and how exciting they made the game. And it does make a big difference for fans when you can have that exciting play that really, especially from the off, that can really get people into the game. But as you say, as long as it's done safely and the players are protected, it's a great addition, obviously, to the game. The next step, actually, I want to kind of move on to there now, is obviously we're an Irish NFL show, so we need to talk about an Irish player who has joined the New Orleans Saints there, and that's Charlie Smith. Obviously, he's new to the game. He's come from Ireland here, from the GAA football, and I'm just wondering, how is Charlie getting on? How has he assimilated himself into, not just with his teammates, but adapting to a new sport and kind of, I guess this would all be kind of strange for him, this kind of mini camps and the kind of process that kind of runs with that. So how has he been getting on so far?
Well, first of all, Charlie is a great addition to our team, a great person. And so it's been fun for me to kind of watch him go through the process. I first met Charlie back when he was going through the International Player Program, and he was training down in Tampa, and I got to see him at a workout down there and at the University of South Florida, and then I got to work with him at the NFL Combine. And so through that process, I got to kind of know Charlie as a person a little bit. Man, he's just a great person to be around. So that's number one. The thing that stuck out to me the most about Charlie right now is man, he's got a really, really talented leg. He's got a lot of leg strength. You can tell he's been kicking the ball, although it be a little bit different, hasn't been kicking in American football for quite as long, but you can tell that this guy really has a lot of ability, and that's the reason we brought him in. We really feel like he's got a great background in terms of, and a great, I'll tell you what, he's got a great skill set for a kicker. His leg strength is never going to be questioned by anybody. There's a amongst the NFL special teams coaches, there's kind of that an old saying about having an NFL leg. There's been a lot of kickers that have come through that have been, pretty accurate and been consistent, but don't really have big legs. Charlie's kind of on the opposite side of that right now. He's got a really as strong of a leg as I've seen. Charlie's thing right now is what he's working on during these OTAs and spring is his consistency. He actually kicked in our field goal period this afternoon and had some really good hits, but he was a little bit inconsistent. And so when he has his best ball and his best kicks, they're very, very impressive. What he's working on right now is working on with our operation, working with our long snapper, working with our holders, who are our punters. And so all that is kind of new to him, obviously. Here's a guy that's been kicking an NFL ball for less than a year, and where he is right now in the process is pretty impressive. Charlie's a hard worker. He's got a great mindset. He's in here every day working his tail off. He's really made a lot of friends in the locker room because of his personality. And so it's been kind of neat for me to watch him in that process. So I'm very, very excited to get him into training camp as we move forward and get him into some of the preseason games and kind of see how he responds. But the good thing about Charlie is I've seen him improve, incrementally since the day he got here. We worked and tinkered with a lot of the technique stuff. And now I feel like he's in a really good place. And really, just like I told Charlie, his goal is every day he goes out there, just get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. He's learning a lot of new stuff on the fly. He's got a really good specialist group in this building that's helping him kind of through the process. And so, I can't wait to kind of move forward here and watch him kind of grow as a person and a player. But it's a real pleasure to have him here. It's been nothing but fun to work with him. And aside from all that, he's a talented guy. And I'm kind of really looking forward to see what the future brings for him.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people over here as well are kind of watching to see how he gets on. I mean, the game has been growing a lot on this side of the pond, but obviously recently in Ireland, we've had a number of the guys who were part of the international player pathway who were over there, which generated a lot of buzz. So for us, it's just great to see some of those guys getting through and getting picked up. And again, as an Irish fan, I can't wait to see how they actually go on in the future. But we mentioned the international pathway program. I mean, how important is that? Not just for obviously these guys like Charlie who are getting that chance, but for NFL teams who are able to maybe cast that net a little bit wider now and maybe find players who previously may not have been found, because obviously there's a lot of talented men out there, talented guys who maybe would never have got the chance to try out for an NFL team, who now can be brought into that kind of spotlight and given a chance. So how can NFL teams benefit from this, and how important could it be going down the road?
Yeah, listen, I'll be the first one to say I was really impressed. We expanded the NFL Combine this year as it related to the specialists, and we brought those guys in, and I got to be honest with you, I was extremely impressed. I didn't think that those guys would be as far along in the process as they were. I think, and I think I speak for all the special teams coaches when I say that they performed much better than expected, and so I think that kind of gives the IPP, the International Player Pathway, I think that kind of gives them a little bit of a boost. You see players throughout the league right now taking part. I think the NFL has done a great job of letting teams bring an international player onto their rosters and not counting in the 90-man roster. That's a big deal, no different than Charlie for us. And so it gives guys like Charlie Smith an opportunity for us to evaluate him and work with him, because let's be honest, they're just a little bit behind for the guy, of the guys that have played college football and high school football, because they just haven't had the process, year after year. And so the ability to be able to work with those guys in your building every day under the same roof, that's really, really important. So it's not only the combines and not only the tryouts and things like that, but to actually be here, to be part of the program on a daily basis, to be in the locker room, to learn from the coaches, to learn from the other players. That's a really good deal. And I'll be the first to say I was a little bit skeptical of the IPP initially, but now having had some this last year of experience with it, I'm a big fan of it. I think it's great for everybody across the pond and all across the world, really, because these international players that don't have the option to play in other professional leagues, because there really is none other. There's not better than the NFL, and so for those guys to get that opportunity, I think it's fantastic. And so no different than Charlie and any other international player that's going through this process. It really is a neat thing for them because it gives them the exposure and it gives them the coaching that they really have. It's hard for them to get elsewhere. And so, I'm a big fan. I'm a believer. I think the program's only going to get bigger. And I think more guys like Charlie that have success with it is just going to make it, clear path for everybody else to kind of blaze a path and give more opportunities to other international guys. So I'm a big thumbs up on the IPP.
Yeah, no, I think from looking at it from the outside myself, it seems to be a great idea from the NFL, even just in the way of generating buzz. I mean, as I say, there was a lot of buzz over here that we had a number of guys over there and they were trying out and there was kind of an excitement. And I think it actually brings the NFL into the sight for a lot of more people and kind of gives it more of a spotlight for people and gives it that kind of a buzz and maybe brings in those new fans as well when something like that happens. So I think it's a great idea. And as you say, hopefully as it goes on, it develops. Coach, just one other thing. Just want to touch you. You guys are in mini camp now at the moment. How is everything being going? The players all ready for the season, dying for everything to get going and everything going well?
Yeah, we got our last mandatory mini camp practice tomorrow before we take a little bit of a break before training camp. It's kind of gone really fast, but we got a lot of great work in. This time of year is a great time for a lot of different things. It's, we're here at the Saints. We're installing a new offense. So that this is a huge part of a year for that. It's a big part of the year for the rookies to come in and get everything implemented. All three phases. It's a big time of year for your team to start to form a bond. And, because obviously there's a lot of turnover after year with the 90-man roster. And so I think we've had a really good spring. We had some warm weather here in New Orleans. So the guys have had some hot days out there, but, really, really working hard. Like I said, this is more of a time of year for technique, fundamentals, all that stuff. It's kind of a time of year to build your foundation because once you get into the regular season, now it's really more about the game plan, week to week, and the matchups and all that kind of stuff. Where now is really where you're building your core foundation. So it's been great. We've had great participation here throughout OTAs and here at minicamp. And like I said, as a coach, I could tell you it's gone pretty quickly. And before you know it, we'll be turning around. We'll be in training camp here in about 5 or 6 weeks, and here we go. So really looking forward to a couple days off. And with family and friends, and then back at it, and here we go. But no, it's been good, and I know this is a big time of year, league wide for all the different teams, and so no different than the Saints, and we've had a really, really nice spring here.
Excellent. And you kind of jumped into my last question there, which was going to be, are you going to get much time off between now and training camp to kind of relax, or for the coaches, will it just be always something to get done?
Well, listen, I got 5 kids, so there's never a day off. So I have a son that's playing summer baseball with a couple different teams. I have a son that just joined the University of Miami football team. I have another son at the University of Texas on their football team, and so I'll be bouncing around trying to see those guys with any time off here, and sneak in a day or two maybe to myself, but like I said, I'm kind of looking forward to the end of July as we start our training camp, and in between now and then, spending some time with the kids when I can. So that'll be nice, and hopefully, like I said, everybody stays healthy here. As we finish up mini camp and we come back ready to roll.
Excellent. Well, listen, Coach, really appreciate you taking the time out to come on and talk to me. I wish you all the best for the upcoming season, and make sure you get those day or twos off to relax and recharge the batteries. And thanks to everyone for watching. Please do keep an eye on the Irish NFL show on our Twitter page, and we're going to have a lot of content upcoming between now and the start of the season, and maybe we might get a day or two off ourselves. We'll see how that works. But until next time, take care. Thank you.